this meeting anyway was not supposed to be a rate hike or a rate action meeting. That is what the Reserve Bank also cleared. So it wasn't a surprise for us that there's nothing which came out of it as such. But clearly, the way the world, the global rates are evolving, it clearly puts pressure on the emerging market central banks to be, able to match to the Fed or the rest of the DM central banks, even though we are looking at second derivative change in the policy stance where most of these DM central banks probably are going to be slowing their rate hikes going ahead. I don't think we are there yet as far as the pivot is concerned. And I think to that extent, emerging markets would be bearing the pressure of, what the Fed is doing, because at this point in time, we still do not know where, the terminal rate is going to be. And thus, to that extent, I think most risk assets would be, feeling the pressure of uncertainty around. And I think to that extent, central banks across emerging markets, including that of Reserve Bank of India, would have to somewhere keep that in mind that, they could be coerced by what Fed is doing.
Madhavi, might the RBI feel the pressure down the road? It is a Fed that is determined to get rates to restrictive levels. Might the RBI be going restrictive as well?
So my sense is that at this point in time, we are not even close to neutral. If as per my calculation, 6 months ahead inflation adjusted for the current rate is still lower than the RBI's real neutral rate, which is close to around 0.8% to 1%. I think we still have roughly around 50 to 60 bips of rate hike to go to be able for them to be able to reach a neutral level of a real rate. Which also implies that in the next 6 months or so, you should be seeing, two tranches of rate hike, probably a little more front-loaded one immediately in the, December policy, followed by a relatively lower rate hike ahead. But I do not think that RBI is going to get too restrictive. At least at this point in time. Of course, it will be contingent on how risk assets behave in the next 3 to 6 months period. But at this point in time, I think, inflation is likely to glide down to close to around under 5.5% by the end of this fiscal year, which will give RBI some kind of comfort, as far as maintaining the rate stance is concerned. And I think in the last time when I came to your show, I also sort of argued that, it's the state of the developed market versus emerging market is pretty different. We caution that the current DM macro backdrop is quite different from what you are seeing in emerging markets and that of India as well. Thus, emulating the Fed could cause the economy. And at this point, India also had a limited evidence of wage price spiral or demand-led inflation. And thus, they could probably play some caution before, getting too restrictive.